There is so much more to ring movement than most players think, and there's an entire section of the game that almost all players don't ever think about. What's up guys, it's Valued, and today we're gonna dive into exactly how to read the ring, but more importantly, how to use the information to your advantage. This topic is a big one, so grab your notepad and let's get right into it. So, throughout the game, we have 6 different zones that move around the map and become smaller. While you all hopefully know this, most of us really don't use the info to our advantage nearly enough. This usually has to do with a lack of understanding of how the ring moves and how to effectively play the map using all the info that this gives us. If you learn to really read the ring and make educated guesses of its movement, you'll find yourself in better positions at every stage of the game. Your analysis of the zone should begin the moment the first ring appears. From here, the ring can really pull any direction, but since the rings are so big here in the beginning, it's not as punishing if you don't predict their movement. What's more important in the early game is to understand where you are on the map versus where the first ring is. If you find yourself outside the ring, then obviously you gotta get a move on. But if you're inside the ring, a lot of times you should play a bit slower and take your time throughout the early stages of a game. If you can manage to hit a survey beacon at any stage throughout the game, you can know exactly where the next ring is headed. These should be heavily prioritized as they allow you to perfectly lay out your squad's plan a few minutes in advance. If you happen to land near center ring, you're guaranteed to be safe from the second zone. Since the first ring is so big, if you're right in the center of it, you know you're guaranteed to be in the ring when it moves to phase 2. While you don't know which way the ring will favor, you can give yourself comfort knowing you're safe for quite some time. And this trick can be really strong if you have legends that are looking to hold down power positions as well. Picks like Caustic, Watson, and Rampart want to remain in an area for an extended period of time so they can play around their defensive kit. If you land center ring with any legends like these, you can loot up quickly and play this area for a while, knowing that you're safe from the ring. This is just one example of how you should play the zone to favor your legend's strengths, but there are a ton more. Valkyrie can get away from playing away from zone for a lot longer because of her ult. Picks like Wraith and Ashe let you play the edge of zone effectively because of their quick and in-combat mobility. Having a Gibby on your team also helps this playstyle as well, because he can set up immediate defenses for the entire squad in a pinch. And the list goes on and on. These type of strengths should be understood in every game and play a large role in how you decide to play out the game. While you don't want to tunnel on a set way to play out the game because, let's face it, every game is very different. You do want to have these frameworks in place though, so that your decisions come from a place of well thought out game theory. And speaking of well thought out game theory, the coaches over at ProGuides.com have plenty to go around. No matter what aspect of your gameplay or decision making you're looking to improve, they can help you hone in on your weaknesses and play to your strengths. Nothing is better for rapid improvement than a one-on-one coaching session with a top level player who can share everything they know about the game. If you're interested, check it out at the top link in the description below. So back to the ring. From the second ring onwards, this is where the predicting of rings begins. The important thing to note about the second ring is which direction it's favoring. This direction can help you predict future rings and should influence how you're pathing on the map. We talked about this quite a bit in our first ring movement video, but your goal should be to play the dead side of zone whenever possible. For those of you who don't understand the dead side of the ring, it's basically where the least amount of players will be located most of the time. And you can find this on the outer rings of the zone, where it pulls the least amount of distance from the previous zone. This means there's less terrain for the zone to cover, which means there's generally going to be less teams coming from this direction. This skinny side of zone is also closest to the storm, which makes it perfect for a good defense against teams from that direction. The zone tends to pull in a similar direction to this part of the ring as well, so playing for these spots usually sets you up for success in a ton of ways. While the zone does pull in a similar direction, it can do some odd movement, but always pulling somewhat in the direction of the dead side of zone. As you make your way into the last few rings, they will begin to also favor areas that have POIs or a lot of buildings. It's pretty rare for a ring to just end in an open field. Now, I know, it can, but it will usually pull towards the last couple remaining locations as the rings continue to close. Between the dead side of zone and nearby POIs, you can do a pretty solid job of predicting the ring's movement once you get some practice. There are a ton of ways that reading the ring can help you make decisions and prepare you for situations in-game. One of the biggest is how it can help you predict enemy movement on the map. Whenever that second ring pulls, players on the map will also pull. Based on the dropship path and the first ring's location, you can pretty accurately determine what POIs are going to have a lot of players passing through and which ones won't. When you add on your own scouting in-game, you can make some reasonable guesses about where enemies are going to be coming from and what locations still in the ring are going to be highly contested. This concept is a big reason why spots like fragments stay busy all game long. Not only is it a super contested drop, but nearly every zone pulls in a way that makes pathing through fragments the quickest way to zone for a large portion of the map. And this consistent flow of players pulls even more players because of the fighting, and we end up with spots like Frag East. But this concept can apply to any area of the map dependent on the zone, and can be used to set up your squad for a wide variety of plays. From avoiding areas that might get you in an unwanted fight, to holding enemies who are rotating late into zone, using the ring to give you extra info and advantages is OP. And off that, let's touch on a great tactic that uses this exact method to a T, gatekeeping. With all of this ring prediction knowledge, you should be having early ring position in a lot of your games. If you can predict where teams are coming from and identify key choke points or power positions, you can use the zone as your fourth squad mate. If you can catch squads rotating late, you can force them to choose between the zone and your squad. Even if the zone isn't dealing damage to them, the pressure of the closing ring can make a lot of teams make mistakes in a panic or just be hasty with their decisions. Even if you don't fully kill the squad, asserting your dominance in an area because you made the right calls to get the best spot before anybody else will bode very well for the rest of your game. And in a lot of instances, the enemy will overcommit and you'll get some KP to boot. So if you want to get really serious about the ring's pattern, there are technically a limited number of ways the ring can end. So as you play your games, you technically will play through almost every ending ring. While this doesn't tell you the ring will get there, it does help you around ring 4 or 5 to predict where the final ring is likely to be. I'm sure you've all seen pro players who seem like they know how the game's gonna end, and it's because they do. They've played through so many of the games, and the endings are actually very similar. Now, this is something that takes a lot of playtime and a good memory, but if you have a ton of reps on every final circle and how to navigate it, this can help you a ton in the final couple of circles. Over time, you'll get a lot of reps and get to see a ton of the ring's rotation paths and just how it likes to move across the map overall. Stay conscious of this and make it a point to learn more about the ring in every one of your games. Even if you've been playing for years, putting a renewed focus on the ring's movement and using the info it provides to take advantage of every game will have you playing the best that you ever have. The ring is something a lot of players just take for granted nowadays. And even if you're a longtime player, I bet you don't play around ring movement every game nearly as much as you should. The info you can deduce about player movement based on ring movement and the pressure of the storm should be constantly influencing your decisions. These are aspects of the game that you can take to your advantage instead of letting them take advantage of you. So many players are constantly fearing the zone or getting surprised by the ring's movement. Don't be these players. While you can't perfectly predict the ring's movement unless you're getting every beacon, you can get close enough that you give yourself a huge positional advantage. Whether that's getting center ring control for a bunker comp or playing the edge of ring to hold late rotating teams, getting comfortable with all of this so that you can be confident and aggressive with your decision making will level you up as a player more than you could ever imagine. Now, tell me, would you have thought you could gain so much info and advantages as I just showed you through the ring positioning? Hopefully today put into focus the raw value that understanding ring movement can bring you to your decision making. Once you master this aspect of the game, you will feel your map movement becoming better and better, and you will find yourself winning a lot more games. If this video helped you out, make sure to sub for more in-depth Apex content just like this. And as always, guys, it's been your boy Valued, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.